I ngā mana, i ngā reo, i ngā karangatanga maha, tēnā rā tātou. I te tuatahi e tika ana kia tuku mihi ki te whare tūnei me tōna rohe takoto ake nei. Koutou te hau kāinga o Ngāti Rārua, whakamanuhiri nei i a mātou, tēnā rā koutou. Tuarua ki ngā kai whakahaere o tēnei o ngā hui i te pūtahitanga koutou o mokowhiti, taku whānau, tēnā rā koutou. Mai kore aki a koutou te rere o te hui nei. Tahuri mai nei kia tātou katoa. Kua whiwhi mai ki te whakanui tēnei o ngā kaupapa whakahirahira. Tēnā rā tātou. Kia ora, everybody. My name is Hinepounamu. I'm 19 years old and it's my privilege to be here today to share with you one of the rangatahi addresses on what whānau ora means to me. He uri au no ngai tahu i te taha o tōku māma, no Ngāti Parau Ngāti Hine te taha o tōku pāpā. And I've grown up in Wellington and now find myself in Dunedin studying law and commerce at the University of Otago. And I work at Te Runanga o Ngai Tahu today on a kaupapa called Manawa Hou that I'd like to speak to very soon. And I'd like to speak to that on the basis of our kaupapa, what whānau ora means to us. And to me, that kaupapa means this word, connection. I see whānau ora as a way of connecting our whānau to each other, to place, to their identity, and I see that come through in all the initiatives that it supports, and I've seen that in my experience growing up. And I'd like to speak about how I grew up a little bit. This is my whānau. You might recognise a handsome fella who was on the mics last night. He's my papa, Ngāhiwi, and my mum, Hinerangi. I'm the middle of 5 children, but I don't have middle child syndrome because I'm the favourite. And I'm lucky to have layers and layers of whānau support around me. A beautiful 2, 3, 4 beautiful iwi that really support me. A school growing up that really cared about my development, and I find that to be my privilege. My privilege is my whānau and it's my connection to them. And so, speaking on that, I'd like to start with my different experiences growing up. Today I find myself incredibly interested in where we find ourselves at, as Māori, and I find it really fitting that we see ourselves at Wairau, the place where our tipuna landed 800 years ago, and to think what has happened since then and now. My parents always really pushed this idea of biculturalism and awareness of who we are, where we find ourselves in New Zealand. And that whole journey for me really began at my kura, te kura Māori o Porirua. It was a kura Māori in Waitangirua, Porirua, Decile 1 school. And it was the best 3 years of my life. I had heaps of fun there. And there were lots of socio-economic issues that surrounded the school. We had whānau come from violent backgrounds, from gang families, not safe environments, but I found it to be a kura that really supported us and in our development. And I'd like to speak to what Mana talked about with all the initiatives that come through. We had so many things at kura, free breakfasts, that I thoroughly took advantage of, and Mum used to tell me off for it all the time because I'd have breakfast at home and then go to school and have breakfast as well, and free fruit, and we'd get free transport to all of our different events, and that played a key part in how safe and comfortable we felt there. But another thing was the community itself, and the kura was a community. We had teachers who didn't just teach, but they were aunties and uncles who were really thoroughly invested into us and our well-being. They cared, they knew our whānau, they made sure they knew our stories, and at that school we felt supported and we felt safe and we felt comfortable. And I never saw this as much of a privilege until I moved. I wanted to be a doctor when I was really young. I think I watched too much Grey's Anatomy. I really wanted to be a doctor. And to be a doctor, you have to study sciences, pretty much, at school. And our school didn't offer that. And so my parents, with a few of my teachers, made the decision that I should move on from the kura. And what I moved to was Wellington Girls College. complete opposite end of the spectrum. Desau 10 school in the Wellington CBD, predominantly Pākehā, all girls, and I found myself at the start just bewildered and completely out of place. It was really different, and it was a massive transition for me. And the thing is that on the surface, you know, it looked really perfect. All these opportunities to study different subjects, geography, fashion and textiles, Latin, French, that I never ever thought I'd have the opportunity to learn about. And all these girls who, most of us had warm, safe homes to go to. There weren't many issues that were impeding on our ability to go to school and learn. But I found it really hard to feel like myself there. It was a really pivotal experience, being there and not feeling at home, and who made the difference for me were the people in this photo and a few others. They were the whānau group. And when we talk about community, it's not just where we live, it's where we exist. And when I went to school, they were home for me. One of my personal heroes, Olivia Gibbons, she was a kaiako at Kura. She stood up for us on so many different accounts. And if there are any teachers in the room, do not underestimate your ability to make a serious impact on rangatahi lives, because my teacher still has a massive place in my heart. She stood up for things like teachers being able to pronounce our names, which is little, but it's big when you're going to 6 different classes a day. She stood up for having a pōwhiri to whakatau all our new students. She stood up for making te reo compulsory at school, which it now is, for year 9s. And she stood up for, in general, our senior management engaging with their Māori whānau and getting to know them better. And so I was really privileged to be part of that whānau group, to have parents and have other whānau that really supported us in our journey to being able to have a great education at a school like this, at an institution like this, and still feel really comfortable. And so my learnings coming out of that kura were never ever to underestimate the power of community. And I had a safe, warm home to go to, come from a privileged background, and yet for me the big difference going through school was that I had my teachers and I had my whānau there. Moana Jackson has recently come out saying that suicide is very much linked to colonisation. And to me, within colonisation, we see that cultural dislocation where whānau have become forced to assimilate into mainstream environments. And we say that our passions come from our experiences. This is my experience. And my passion is making sure that future generations of our Māori don't have to grow up in mainstream education schools where they feel out of place. It's a really big thing for me, and I have a massive soft spot in my heart for those rangatahi. And that's not to discount other issues. There are other issues, absolutely, that matter to Māori. But to me, I see my purpose as helping people, helping rangatahi in schools feel connected to who they are, to where they come from, because that is a really big deal. Which leads me into my mahi. Last year I had the privilege of accepting a contract with Te Runanga o Ngaitahu, a fixed term contract on a kaupapa called Manawa Hou. And Manawa Hou is one of our rangatahi initiatives that sits within our iwi capability team, and that's where all of our office-led iwi development initiatives are, our wānanga, our scholarships, our internships. Manawa Hou is just one of those. And why does it exist? It exists based on the premise that if we have healthy rakatahi, we have healthy whānau, healthy hapu, and healthy iwi, and vice versa. Rangatahi development is a really key issue in Ngaitahu at the moment, because out of all of the age groups, most of us sit under the age of 25. And so ensuring that our future leaders are well equipped for the future is a really big deal, and I'm proud that our iwi invests in that. It exists with these 4 po, which I'd like to speak a little bit about, and that's manawa takata, which is enhanced connectivity, connection to self, to others, to place, manawa tikaka, which is strengthened kaitahutaka reo and tikaka, and knowing where we come from, what we talk about, how we carry through the things that we carry out, and manawa whenua, empowered sense of place, and manawa iwi, a commitment to our iwi. And all these things, underlying all these things is building communities, building relationships within our iwi that will carry people forward into the future. And so it's a hikoi, it's a haerenga that takes Ngāi Tahu split into 18 different papatipu runanga or kāinga, and each manawa hou will travel to a different one of those. This kaupapa began in 2012 after the call of a few rangatahi who wanted more rangatahi engagement with the iwi. And so now where we find ourselves is the most recent manawa hou was called Manawa Hou Ngā Tapu Wai o Tira Morehu. And we followed the footsteps of one of our tipuna, Matiaha Tira Morehu, who is a real symbolic figure in our iwi. He led the battle for our claim, for Te Kereme, our settlement. He was born at Kaiapoi and led a group of people down to Moeraki. And we saw him as a real key figure and saw him as someone that we could take a lot of learnings out of. That's him there. It's a pretty old photograph, but he's a pretty cool guy. A lot of what we have today, we have him and his generation to thank for. And we were really, really privileged to take a group of 24 rangatahi. We started at Tuahiwi Marae. We had 24 rangatahi, 12 tuakana mentors that guided us, and we had an awesome time. I had lots of fun, and what we did was we went up Maukatere, which is Mount Grey, so that ties into manawa whenua, connection to place. That's the ancestral maunga of Tuahuriri, Ngai Tuahuriri, out at Kaiapoi, and we listened to kōrero. Everyone looks really interested there, but we listened to some kōrero from some of our kai kōrero from Ngāi Tahu around our histories and our stories. That is Matiaha Tira Morehu's grave at Moeraki, that we got to have a bit of quiet time there, which was really, really special. And this is where we planted 200 trees at Kātiki Pā as a way to give back to Papa Tuānuku. And I'm really privileged to be part of this kaupapa. These rangatahi that come to us come from all different walks of life, from rangatahi that have grown up Māori, in te reo Māori who know who they are strong in who they are, to rangatahi who maybe have never been to a marae. Didn't know they were Ngāi Tahu until their parents mentioned this program and wanted them to come along. We have all different kinds of rangatahi, and it's just really rewarding to see the different outcomes. We have, I want to talk to this one experience I had, which was like pretty moving, and it was this one girl who'd come on Te Ara Whakatipu, which is another program that takes rangatahi into the Hollyford Valley for a week without service, and we see what we get up to. But she was just awesome, and I built this really strong connection with her, and so I said to her, come to Manawa Hou and see how you like it. And so she came. She'd grown up in Auckland. She didn't know anything about her whakapapa except for that she was from Bluff, because her koro talked about Bluff all the time. And when we got to Moeraki, I don't know how many people in this room know David Higgins, but that man knows his whakapapa. And he sat down with this girl and he was talking to her and he said, "Who are your uncles and aunties?" And she told him, and he figured out that she also had connections to Moeraki. He said, "You're one of ours, and tomorrow we're going to the Urupa and you'll get to see your nan there." And when we went to the Urupa to go to see Matiaha Tira Morehu, he said, "Okay, we'll have some quiet time." And he took her to go see her nan. And this girl, one of my favourite things about her is she's like not an emotional, touchy-feely person at all. Like, she's pretty straight up the guts, doesn't like being touched. She's real, she's crack up. And she stood there with Poa David, and he said, "Oh, I'll give you a moment to just, spend some time with your nan by yourself." And I went over, and this girl I could see was completely moved by the entire experience. Even though she's not an emotional person, I could tell it was an emotional moment for her. And I thought that's where I saw the power of reconnecting our rangatahi with who they are. The idea that she's grown up in Auckland, maybe not having the best sense of belonging and connection, and then to have that one moment just change her entire perspective of who she is and where she belongs was really special to experience. And it's where my passion lies. I love being part of these wānanga, and it has it's got room for improvement. It's not perfect. But what it does is it fills a gap for those rangatahi who otherwise don't have the opportunity to learn about where they come from. It gives our rangatahi a chance to go home and learn and connect and enjoy their whenua, enjoy their takiwa, enjoy their people. And it's a kaupapa that I'm really, really proud of. And these are kids that I'm really, really proud of. They take up the challenge. Every manawa hou is different, and our recent ones have been very intense. We've done some intense wānanga, but they're always really, really happy, and we always have so much fun. And something I left out when I was talking about my upbringing was that I had the chance to go on manawa hou. And even though I'd grown up knowing I was ngaitahu my whole life, this really changed the way I saw myself within my iwi. Before that, everything I'd connected to was through my mama. It was stories that she'd told me. It was going home for the sake of going home. And after I went to manawa hou, it was like a gateway to all these different relationships that only I had, that I didn't share with my mum, and that all these different learnings and this different connection to where I came from. And so it's a kaupapa that I see sits alongside whānau ora and all the other different kaupapa that it supports, and all of our other kaupapa Māori initiatives that go into communities and address a need. The need here is cultural connection, and that's what whānau ora means to me. This is a whakatauki e kore rawa au engaro he kākanoa hou I ruia mai I Rangiatea. I will never be lost. I'm a seed sown from Rangiatea. It's one of my favourites, and it speaks, I think, beautifully to this whole kaupapa. When we give rangatahi a sense of who they are, when they know that they have a place to belong to, whether or not they have breakfast or they have a warm home to go to, if they know where they're from and they're strong in that, I seriously believe we have a really bright future ahead of us. And there are different ways to achieve this. Whānau ora, manawa hou, all of our different kaupapa and te iwi Māori today, they contribute to this change, and I think we should really give ourselves a big ups for what we do, and the onus that we put on each other to really push and flourish as a people. So to conclude, my main point, connection. Connection is key. There's nothing more important in this world than feeling like you belong somewhere, like there's a responsibility on you to contribute to something. And I have every hope that in a few generations' time, our rangatahi, no matter where they might find ourselves, will have an incredibly strong sense of who they are and where they come from. Tēnā koutou.